This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 48.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers, with your host, Ramsey Marjaba. The gym is Ramsey's sanctuary.
Hello, SE Nation, and welcome to the latest episode. I am Ramsey Marjaba, and I'm here to help you transition up in your career to make more money, have more flexible time, and help your customers achieve their goals. Today's guest is Edward Kingscote, a sales engineer out of my region, which is Ottawa, Canada. And today we've discussed a few topics, including building relationships with customers while you are remote, so you have to travel quite a bit. And also we discussed demos and proof of concepts. Show notes to everything we've discussed will be at wetheSalesEngineers.com/show48. And before we get into the show, just quick tip of the day is that there is a free forum on wetheses.com. It's hidden, but if you want access to it, you can gain access by signing up to the book club. You then get an email telling you how to register for the forum. And although there's not much activity there, I do want to build that. We should all be on there talking to each other, helping each other out. The focus so far has been about books, and they're mainly myself posting book reviews. But if anybody listening wants to post a book review of their own or has any questions, let me know and I can start a conversation there. To register for the book club, you can go to wetheSalesEngineers.com/book club. Now let's jump into the show. Good morning, Edward.
Good morning, Ramsey.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
So, it's an early morning for both of us. We are half awake or half asleep, depending if you're an optimist or a pessimist. So, let's start easy. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so obviously I'm a sales engineer, hence joining you on the podcast this morning.
Welcome.
I've had I've been a sales engineer now, I guess, for 14 years, I guess, something like that. And most of my experience has been with the telecommunication industry, one way or another. So fairly interesting career to date.
So, 14 years. What were you before that?
I was at university before that, so being a sales engineer is all I've ever known.
So you got a job straight out of university. Most people say that's impossible. How did that happen for you?
Well, it's interesting. So actually, my university course was actually a 4-year degree, and the third year was a year out working in industry. So in Canada, the closest thing that, as I understand it, would be like a co-op program where you have time out, working with different employers. But for me, it was just a whole year was the third year of my degree course. And I ended up working with BT in the UK, the kind of, ex-national telco as it was back in the 80s. Through that, I obviously met a load of people, and one of them there recognized some of my talents. So actually, one of the first demos I did was for BT in terms of creating some stuff for them. One of my colleagues there recognized my talents, and we had a conversation during my final year at university, and I joined a small startup that was based out of Providence, Rhode Island after I graduated. So it was more a case of doing the right things on my year in industry, and then making the right connections, I guess.
All right, let me clarify. You were studying in Canada.
No, I was studying in the UK. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So you're studying in the UK.
Yeah.
You had a 1-year internship at
Effectively,
at British Telecom,
Yeah.
and one of the guys there noticed your talents. What were those talents? Sell yourself. It's hard to talk about yourself.
I was going to say, this is interesting. It's like, sell myself. I think it was just the fact that I like I say, probably the biggest thing was doing this demo and just being able to solve problems on the fly very quickly. So the demo that was it was actually going to BT Centre in London. It was to demonstrate quality of service, and the idea of having 3 classes of service on a network, so you could differentiate voice traffic, and kind of everything else. And I think the second class was like video or something like that. But as you turn the quality of service on and off in this network, being able to show the difference on a screen. And so there was some graphing software that was running that was showing the traffic levels passing through the network. And it was actually the chairman of BT had seen this demo, and he's like, well, it'd be great if there was a red line on the screen so you could see where the traffic was, still after the switch had taken place, because all you could see was a real-time view. And of course, the simple option would have been get a Sharpie and draw a red line on the screen, and it would be there indelibly forever. But I guess part of it was I knew that there was some changes happening in terms of the network design, and so the requirements of this demo might change down the line. And so what I actually did is I spent a weekend I threw together some graphing software, basically re-implementing what was already there, but a lot more flexible to solve this problem. I wrote the software. It was then running in BT Centre, and kind of happy days. And it gave them the ability to configure exactly where a static red line would appear, or multiple different bits on the graph, or whatever they wanted to do. So it made it a lot more powerful. And I think that was just taking the initiative to do that and make that happen off my own bat was a significant event in my very early in my career to show that I could solve problems and make things happen.
So, all right, if you hear footsteps running around, that's my son upstairs. It's early in the morning and he's not at daycare yet, so don't mind that. Second, was this an internal demo, or were you demoing something to a customer?
So this ultimately went out to BT's customers. So I didn't actually end up doing much of the presentation of this particular demo. But a lot of BT's clients would come in and ultimately see this in BT Centre. So they had like an executive briefing center, all set up, very kind of space age looking. Actually, it was very cool. But yeah, there was another guy there that would actually be delivering these demos day in, day out to potential BT customers. And you can imagine it was for their MPLS network. So which is kind of private VPNs connecting multiple disparate business sites. So you can imagine all the big banks and other kind of enterprises like that, where they got lots of branches and things, were going through their visiting, trying to figure out what they could do in terms of improving their network connectivity with new IP-based services.
So you did the content of the demo. You created the little the graphing software, or at least you used
I created the graphing software for it. Yeah, because the graphing software they had didn't meet the requirements that they had anymore. So I kind of upgraded the demo, I guess. But that was the first real engagement I had with doing work towards demo and proof of concept activities.
All right. And somebody else would actually do the demo in front of the customers.
Somebody else would actually be delivering the demo. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And that's where people saw your talent in creating demos, or going the extra step to make it look nicer than it would normally.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and like I say, just taking that initiative, and the fact I got the ability to just make things work one way or another.
Would you consider yourself a perfectionist?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. All right. I was just curious, because I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a more get things done person. So
yeah, it's an interesting challenge sometimes. I was reading an article recently where being a perfectionist can lead to procrastination, and I think I do hold myself to pretty high standards, but yeah, at the same time, you do have to get stuff done as well. So sometimes I walk away and it's like, yeah, I wish I could have done a better job, but there just wasn't the time to do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you graduated university. You did you started with a startup as a sales engineer.
Yes.
And it's been 14 years since you started.
Yes.
What would you say you know now that you wish you knew when you started?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
We can come back to that if you want.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with that one. That's
Well, it's been 14 years, so like, how would you remember what you knew or what you didn't know? So I understand.
yeah, it's been that's the thing. I guess. I mean, yeah. I mean, we could talk. I mean, yeah. My early on as an SE, I wasn't doing that much in the way of responding to RFPs and all those kind of things, right? So my career has, as an SE, I was quite focused on just doing. I started off doing a lot of this demo POC work, and then, the next role I took after that, I really started to get engaged a lot more in the RFP work and all those kind of things. So I guess I just kind of, early on, I just didn't really, like I say, I kind of evolved into being a fully blown FC, so to speak. That I wish I knew that. Well, I think I had a good idea, but yeah, I don't know. That's a really interesting question. That's a tough one.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it later. So, when you started off as an SE, like people say, the SE role has changed a lot since the conception of the idea. And I've only been in SE for 5 years, so it hasn't changed a lot while I've been in SE. But they're saying that the roles are merging between the salesperson and the SE. Have you noticed any of that? How has the role changed since you started until now?
So yeah, I guess in the past number of years, past 5 years or so, I've spent a lot more time looking at numbers with the sales account managers and supporting them with quotes and looking at what we can do to really enable the sale. So yeah, I well, and again, I'm seeing a lot more stuff where it's more what might be termed technical account management. So it's kind of this, like you say, hybrid between SE and sales role. I mean, I think for me, an SE has always been selling, but yeah, maybe the changes around some of the work, and maybe it's organizational specific as well. But yeah, I would never really have to think about, early on in my career, I would never have to think about, really think about the numbers or anything else. It would just be, okay, this is the solution, this is the problem we're trying to solve. Doing all that technical kind of matching, discovery, whatever, doing a demo, and very much focusing on the technical side of stuff without having to really worry about too much about what the numbers and the kind of business impact that it was making in terms of being able to sell stuff. So for me, yeah, I think there has been some change around that, and also again, being a lot more sensitive to not putting my foot in it when a sales guy is trying to close a sale or whatever else, being very, very cognizant of what it can take to make or break a deal.
One thing that I've noticed that, or maybe, I don't know, that I enjoy doing, I don't know if other SEs enjoy doing, is building their relationships with the customers, right? And I am lucky in the sense that all of my customers are within 5 miles of each other because I am local to Ottawa. I understand that you used to travel quite a bit.
I've always traveled in my career, and yeah, early on I was global. As time has gone on, I've actually my region has got smaller and smaller, in a sense. So latterly I was just dealing with Europe. Now I'm just dealing, these days I've just been dealing with North America, although still had the opportunity to do longer trips here and there for various reasons. But yeah, when you're geographically separated like that, I think building a relationship is actually a lot harder. it's not impossible, but it just, can take a bit more time and effort. And I think customers do really still value. I mean, again, the big changes I've seen actually have been around the technology, I guess, as an SE. When I started, I'd be on the road and I didn't even have access to email, right?
Yeah.
Or it was very, very limited. And then obviously BlackBerry came along, changed the world in terms of suddenly I could be working in the back of a taxi and not be thinking about it. And these days, you can even have Wi-Fi on airplanes and stuff like that as well, right? Whereas, a decade ago, that wasn't even heard of. That wasn't even a thing. So, being always connected and always being able to do work has been a huge change, I guess. And, but having said that, even now we're talking remotely. We're not in the same room. We're using technology to talk and record this together. But customers, to me, still really, really value that FaceTime and that go meet and make that connection. You can do 1,000,001 WebEx sessions or whatever else, but if you've never actually met in person, I think it's 1,000,000 times harder to actually succeed personally. And the challenge I've got in my from a personal perspective is balancing that with constantly being on an airplane and then the environmental impact that has and everything else, right? So, I kind of see both sides to that discussion, well, the cost to an organization of doing that as well. So I kind of see both sides to that discussion, but yeah, I think the relationship is still really important, and it does take real face time to really develop that and nurture that, which is as a traveling SE that's done global work can be very challenging.
If you're doing mostly via WebEx, because travel is hard. It's hard on the family. It's hard on the physical body of the person traveling. Although a lot of people do it. So how do you just say, hey, let's jump on a WebEx and have a chat, or what would be the reason for me? Let me ask you this: for me, when I go visit a customer, I can just drop in and say, hey, walk up to his desk and scare him from behind. How does it work on a WebEx?
Well, that's the challenge. It doesn't really, and so again, there is more kind of there's more there does seem to go visit someone that there typically has to be a reason to go, which is pretty tough in terms of nurturing those relationships. But you do tend to just send emails just saying, hey, how's it going? What's going on today, or phone calls. Just checking in. And I guess if you're farming your existing customer base, that's kind of easier to do because you've got all the contacts. If it's a new customer, you kind of have to go visit them at least once to be able to try and build some of that connection and network. I remember, it must be getting on for 9 years or so ago now. I ended up spending, I think it was about 6 or 8 weeks on the road, and all I was doing was touring around the region, meeting after meeting after meeting, trying to, working with a sales guy, trying to, in some cases, even on my own, actually, just trying to, do that kind of business development, drum up business, do presentations and demos and stuff, saying, hey, look, this is us, this is what we've got. Let's talk further. And like you say, that was. At that time I was lucky; it was only me, and at that time she was only then my girlfriend as well. So again, my wife is well versed in my traveling escapades, shall we say? So it's actually easier to do that. But I do remember that I ran out of laundry, and literally I was going from one side of the region to the other. Stopped off at Heathrow Airport, handed her a suitcase full of dirty laundry, and took another one full of clean laundry so I could continue my trip. Which I couldn't, to be honest, I couldn't even imagine doing now, having 2 young children at home and the craziness that family life brings. It would, doing that length of trip and that kind of craziness, I think would be a step too far. But like you say, there are plenty of people out there that can still do it. And again, I'm kind of crazy. I do enjoy the travel, and I do like being on the road as well, where business permits.
Okay. All right. So when you go, you're not going to a customer site saying, hey, I'm on site, you want to hang out. You actually have a meeting set up, a predetermined meeting set up, and you show up at a
Yeah,
customer.
absolutely. Unless it just so happens that, two customers are next door neighbors and I happen to be in town for one meeting, then of course you'll try and set up another one, or coffee or whatever with the other customer. And of course, they usually then know, and again, there's politics behind that, right? They usually then know that you're busy talking to their competitors as well. But, often that's not too much of a big deal. And there's certainly been occasions where I've been visiting one customer and it's like, oh, let's take the extra day because, the flight is usually the biggest cost, take the extra day or so and see if we can get another meeting or coffee or whatever lined up with other folks while we're in town.
And these meetings could be a variety of reasons, like discovery or demo or anything like that.
Yeah,
right?
discovery, demo, scoping of services, whatever it may be. So a lot of it is just trying to find a valid, business justification to be in town. Again, it depends on the organization, it depends on their approach, and it depends on their structure as well. Again, the bigger the organization, the more likely they are to have a local sales guy that's maybe based with customers or whatever else. So as an SE, that can be quite challenging where you're kind of one step removed from that relationship. And you're just, invited in to do the technical stuff. That can, like I say, it can be really quite challenging. But you just kind of have to muddle through and do the best you can to maintain, build those relationships and maintain them.
Like, other than travel, what's the most time-consuming aspect of your job?
I would say responding to RFPs is probably one of the most time-consuming things there is, just because, again, I'd say it's one thing that hasn't changed too much, although again, and even now, actually, although technology is there to help teams work on these things, I still say it's not as effective as or not as widespread use as I'd like to date in terms of what I've seen. I think adoption has been much slower than we'd all like in a lot of cases, but just the sheer volume of questions and answers. And of course, much as you can try and build a library of canned answers and everything else, often the questions are written and rewritten in ways that makes it harder to reuse material. You at the very least have to reword some of the stuff so it makes sense in the context of which it's being asked. So I would say, when an RFP lands, that they tend to be all consuming for, potentially weeks at a time, depending on how big it is and who it is, and the energy that's required to respond to it. That's probably the most time-consuming thing that I encounter, apart from travel.
So is that something you can do on the plane or at the airport, or you have to be part of a team doing it?
Well, you can do a lot of work offline. I think, again, for me, a lot of the work as well is if you're the SE that's kind of leading the charge, and you're working with a team, these days it's still a case of, a lot of spreadsheets flying around where it's like, well, okay, you take section 1, I'll take section 2, and, someone else takes section 3. But then there's all the collation work, and then there's bits where it's like, well, actually, I don't know the answer for that, so that needs to be refarmed to somebody else. And, and again, this technology is there these days, things like Office 365 or Google Docs, where you can collaborate in real time and make it a lot easier to do that. But there's still a huge amount of energy that's required to do that. And so, there's a lot of work that can be done independently, but some of the work, if you can see stuff evolving in real time and not having to do that collation activity at the end that can take, potentially a day or two to kind of wrap everything up and put the bow on it and get it out the door, that's very hard to do as well if you're not connected and you're offline somewhere. Again, if not every plane has Wi-Fi. A lot certainly in North America do these days, which is helpful. But of course, it can still be a bit flaky. It can still be quite expensive to do. But yeah, you do certainly need connectivity for that. But it doesn't necessarily stop you traveling. I remember actually one of the things that was said to me very early on in my career by a colleague. He said, Ed, there's going to come a point where you're going to be sat in a hotel room, on a hotel bed, and you're going to be putting together a deck or, something like that. And I was like, no, never going to happen. I'm always going to be having a nice dinner and a beer or whatever. And it's happened so many times. Yeah. It's not really a surprise anymore, and that's the thing. So, you never have control over when something's going to crop up either. So, an RFP lands, and often the timescales are insanely short for the amount of work that's required and everything else. And so, yeah, you do end up having to do work wherever you can a lot of the time.
And by deck is like a demo deck, or like any deck, like it could be an RFP.
PowerPoint deck or demo deck, whatever it may be. Some kind of presentation material for a customer. But I mean, equally, like I say, there could be RFP responses and all those kind of things as well. A number of times I have sat in this hotel room, just holed up, head down, working hard, trying to get stuff done. That's the thing, I guess. Early in my career, I was like, never going to happen. Didn't quite believe in, but looking back, it's like, it's happened a lot.
Well, it hasn't happened to me, and that's because all my customers are local. So
I guess that's the thing. Yeah, a lot of it is based on geography as well. But of course, I'm sure you spent times holed up in your office, wherever that may be, doing that stuff, just kind of hunkered down, almost Hobbit-like, just trying to close the doors and focus and get stuff done.
Yeah, well, I think it's happened to everyone, but the good thing about being a sales engineer is that if you end up selling, you get rewarded for it. Versus another job where you just work overtime, and you may get paid overtime, but depending on the company.
Yeah, and again, I think that's always been the thing that I've tried to maintain in my, throughout my career, is some semblance of balance. If I've ended up working 3 weekends on the trot, it's like, well, okay, and again, having management that understands what being an SE is and how it works and everything else, I found that a lot of people are pretty flexible. So it's like, like say, if you work 3 weekends on the trot, though, they're usually like, okay, you can take some time off during the week to make that up, right? And on balance, you usually end up working way more than you'd like, but still there is some recognition. And like you say, there's always the financial recompense as well as an SE, where you do get rewarded for the hard work you put in, which is really good.
Yeah, like I find a lot of SE managers are just great people. That's my experience.
I would agree.
Yeah, just for example, when I first started with Spirent, my former manager there, I worked for a long time, and then I went on vacation with my wife, and then because it's a American company and we have a very small team in Canada, the way to book a vacation is like through an Excel spreadsheet, and I didn't know what it was, how it was, or whatever. So I emailed him. I was like, "Hey, how do you do this?" She's like, "Don't worry about it this time because you've been working hard." Like he gave me 4 days for just like that, which it's never happened to me before. One time I traveled on a weekend for my previous job, and then I traveled on a Sunday, and most travels from Ottawa is over, like, it's an entire day pretty much. And I took a day off after just because I had some things to take care of, and my manager got bothered and said I shouldn't be taking days off for like traveling on a weekend. It's very different. I don't know. That's just an observation. All right. I know we wanted to talk about demos, and this is something that I am interested in. So let me start with this. How do you prepare for a demo?
So that's a great question. So I think it really depends on what the demo who the target audience is, and where and how it's being presented. So some demos are going to be at a trade show, so that's going to be very much kind of pre-canned, as it comes. If it's customer orientated, then it's going to be much more, what is the business problem they're trying to solve, and how can we go about solving that? Have we even got a solution? Because in some cases, you'll be sat in front of a customer and they will have told you something, and you're like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
doesn't match anything in our portfolio, but interesting nonetheless. So I think, like I say, first step is understanding, what are the requirements and who's the audience and how is it going to be presented, and then really figuring out, is there anything you'd like to think that for a lot of product stuff, for a trade show or whatever else, some of this stuff is pre-canned, and or at the very least the product capabilities are there. So then it's just a case of kind of working it through and going, okay, let's figure out what it is we need to show and how we need to show it. And I think one of the big secrets of doing demos for me is making sure that things are highly repeatable, and very robust and reliable. So, and that often means that even in a demo, you are looking at handling various corner cases. What happens if a customer suddenly takes you off script and you need to show something different, or whatever else. And again, if they do take you off script, knowing the points at which you can do that and get away with it, and it's not going to upset the rest of the flow of the demo. Because a lot of software products and demos, there's always going to be data changing associated with stuff, and some of the stuff that you prepare is going to be based on, like I say, certain things happening in certain orders, stuff being in known states, so that that the next step will work as you expect. Because for me, any demo, I mean, we've all been there. Even Apple have had the big failures up on stage when they've been presenting the new iPhone and the like, right? It's like, hand me the spare device or whatever else. And not all of us have got those luxuries, but it's knowing kind of, where the risks are and addressing those risks as best you can to make sure that your demo is successful as possible, is the real secrets for me, I guess.
All right. 2 questions. So you mentioned that you want to make sure that you have a solution for the problem. If you don't have a solution, how do you go about breaking that news to the account manager?
I tend to, if it's to the account manager, I find that a pretty easy discussion, because it's just like, it tends to be more internal and everything else. So it's easier to sit there and go, hey, we don't have a solution here. And again, a lot of that will be validated with the product management team. And, because some companies will do bespoke solution engineering and all those kind of things. So there'll always be that work done in the background before going back to the account manager. And it may be, there's usually 2 difficult conversations. Like I say, one is, no, we can't do it, or yes, we can do it, but it's going to be hugely expensive.
Yeah.
But dealing with the account manager, I tend to be pretty much open book and tell it how it is and say, look, this is what it is, and this is the feedback I've got. And normally most account managers they'd rather you tell them the truth and that you're honest and everything else, so that they don't waste time on something that they know is not ultimately going to fly for anybody. Because everybody needs to have the support of the organization behind them, I think, to succeed. I've been in situations before where, and that's the thing, I think we've probably all oversold to a degree, but I would only ever do that with the support of the organization behind me, because otherwise, that's where deals then fall apart, and the whole organization can look bad, and that's where the relationships and trust really break down. Is when you sell something that is just unachievable. So like I say, I'm always very very open and honest with the account manager to tell them how it is, so that they can help make the right decisions about what should be going on. And if they need to go and exert pressure elsewhere with me to make stuff happen, then that's a different discussion.
So what about the customer? Like, account manager is easy to break it to. What about how do you go about breaking that to the customer? Again,
for me, I think the whole trust side of stuff in a relationship is really important. And so again, again, it depends on what it is too. If it's with an existing customer, existing products, well, it also depends on what they're asking for as well. If they're saying, well, your competitor's product can do X, Y, and Z, and it's in the sphere of what the product probably should be doing, then that's a much harder conversation to have, because you're opening up the door for them to go and look at competitors potentially, which nobody wants to do. But if it's something that's kind of somewhat left field, it's actually kind of easy to go, well, this isn't really our core domain, or this isn't really, or let's be fair, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, you just don't have the budget to do this, right? What you're asking for is possible, but it's just going to be hugely expensive to do, and therefore let's look at alternatives. And I will normally try and break the news to them, but also say, well, can we look at alternatives? Is there any other way that we can tackle this problem with what we've got, or with another adjunct piece that can help us, where it maybe not be so expensive, or it may be we have to partner up with an organization or whatever else, and there's some integration work to do. So I don't think any of us like saying no outright, but sometimes it has to be done. But I would normally, say, well, let's look at, is there any other ways that we can tackle this? Because again, sometimes you don't necessarily have the full picture of the customer's environment, whereas they do. So, being able to sit down with them and say, well, let's take more of a consultative view of this and look at other avenues about, well, what other bits have they got that you may not even know exist? And there's been times where I've done that, where you suddenly go, oh, you've got this tool over here or this software over here. Well, let's look at that. And suddenly you can find a whole different way to solve a problem where they're trying to exert pressure on you, and that actually, sometimes they don't even need to. And again, I think that helps with the relationship building.
The reason I'm asking the questions is because I find it's common that the hardest thing to do is pull out of an opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially if the account manager is desperate and he knows he needs every single opportunity from now until the end of the year to make quota.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just better to pull out and find another opportunity versus keep chugging along in one opportunity. But I like that. Like, sometimes a lot of customers just give you, I want this, but you don't know why they want it.
Yeah, and again, I think we've all been in a situation where a customer comes to you saying they want the moon on a stick, and
yeah,
it's again, that's the thing. A lot of it is managing the expectations and everything else, and you're right, it can be really hard to do, particularly if your account manager's like, well, I really need this deal, and it's like, well, yeah, but let's be fair. Why? I mean, I think that's the thing as well is, if it's early in the year or middle of the year, it's a lot easier to have those discussions to say, well, let's go and find another opportunity to make this up in your quota and everything else, rather than, again, I suppose it's, trying to break that news as early as possible and everything else. Because, I mean, the worst thing is you spend 6 months on something and then, you go, yeah, sorry, that deal didn't work out. And, then everybody's underwater, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, a lot of it is, I mean, I guess that's the advantage I've had being on the road a lot, but I'd be interested to get your perspective, even working locally. For me, I spend so much time with account managers, and, particularly being on the road together, you do almost become like family to each other, right? It's because you go out for dinner together, you are together all the time. And so actually that working relationship is so important. But, like I say, a lot of the people I've ended up working on the road with become, like I say, like family. And again, that gives you the trust in the relationship, everything else. That you know that you can have those difficult conversations to manage expectations and figure stuff out together. And sometimes you do end up having to do the odd bits and pieces where you think, yeah, this is not going to fly, or we can't make this work, or this is hugely challenging. But thankfully, in my experience, I say that those have been somewhat few and far between in terms of not being able to figure stuff out.
Okay. So from my perspective as a local SE, I had one sales guy and I met with him quite often. We went out to dinners whenever like a VP of sales or a director comes in from out of town. We'd go out to dinner. We built our relationship just like being at work together. We do a lot of things together, like discovery meetings and working on proposals and that sort of thing. And we do some stuff apart. So we don't spend enough time to drive each other crazy, but we don't spend enough time apart that we forget about each other. So it worked out for me. I like doing that. I don't know if I'd want to go out to dinner with my sales guy every time I travel, but that's just my personality.
Well, I again, that's the thing. Some of this stuff is kind of it's in bursts as well, right? If you're not on the road together for a few weeks, then you don't you don't have to go out to dinner together either, right? But again, it's interesting. I mean, I've had I've been kicked under the table before now. It's like, in the again, depending on how the room's set up, the filthy ducks shot across the table, but it's a lot easier to know that that's happening, or be able to do that to each other when you've got this solid relationship. And I think that's, again, as an SE, relationships all over the map are critical, internally and externally.
Yep. All right. So going back to the demo, I'm assuming you get all that information from a discovery call. It's not the account manager who does the discovery and tells you. You are part of the discovery, correct?
Oh, usually, yeah. Or, if an account manager does say, well, we need a demo, then there'll always be some follow-up to figure out, well, what is it we're trying to do here. So there's always an element of discovery around it.
And do you create a script? Like, do you actually write down what you're going to say to a customer before a demo?
It depends. So I mean, again, some of these things are very organic and they evolve. I try and have a if it's customer specific, I have a try and have a the script in my head, and it's not set in stone. Something like a trade show, absolutely, is scripted to a T because you're running that thing maybe I don't know 30 times a day or whatever, and it's got to be you want it to be the same, reliable, all those kind of things. So and again, it depends on what you're demoing and how you're demoing it. I mean, some stuff I've demoed has been entirely built in PowerPoint. It looks completely real, but it's entirely PowerPoint. So of course, then it has to be completely scripted because it's not real in the slightest because you can't, the software or whatever else doesn't lend itself to being taken on a laptop on the road for whatever reason. So, but yeah, typically I will try and have an idea in my head, but it wouldn't be set in stone. But there will be a general flow and points I want to cover through that. But like I say, in some stuff, if it's more conversational, it's organic, then it's a lot harder to do that.
All right. And you mentioned that sometimes customers ask you questions and that may take you off script.
Yes.
And you said you'd make the decision then of how much down the rabbit hole you should go or not. So how do you make that decision? Based on what?
Well, is it possible? Is it something I know how to show? And I guess is the biggest one. But also, what does this mean in terms of? I'd say probably actually just can I show this is probably the biggest one. But then also, is this actually going to help them solve their problem? Is this a big deal or not? I guess is the other part of it, because if it's some nitty gritty detail that isn't that important, then it might be I just gloss over it and carry on and say yes, we can do that, but don't need to show it here, or we can set up a separate session offline, just a quick WebEx or whatever, just to show that specific thing or whatever. But again, it depends on the audience. I mean, quite often there'll be a mixed audience, and so you don't necessarily want to get sucked down the rabbit hole of technology if that's not what the majority of your audience want to get sucked down into, because they just they're not at that level. So there's a number of factors, but I'd probably say the biggest one is can I even show this? Is it there to is it easy to show and obvious to show, and have I got the the setup to be able to do it? Because like I say, a lot of stuff is ultimately data driven, and if the data isn't there, or the way of showing stuff happening isn't there, then it's again it's going to reduce the value. Okay. And so sometimes it's a case of, well, let's follow up with that, or let's look at that separately as well and just make a note of it and move on.
Right. Personally, I don't like showing anything that's not pre-configured, mainly because it takes maybe 2-3 minutes to configure it, in which time the customers are disengaged.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's what I mean about is it even something that's showable? I mean, if it's just like, oh, you've got this option on the UI, then it's there's no configuration. Of course, it's easy to show.
Like click here and that's it.
Like I say, if it's detail, well, it needs data, it needs configuration, all those kind of things, then and it takes time, then usually be like, well, we'll come back and look at that at the end, or we'll come back and look at that in a later session or offline or whatever. One-on-one more maybe with the person posing the question, but some of it as well is just judging very quickly about how important that you perceive the value to be around that feature as well. If they're just like, well, I want to see this, and it's not come up in discovery, then to be honest, it's probably it's either you've been talking to the wrong people, or it's maybe not the most important thing to be showing at that point in time anyway.
How long on average are your demos? Like hours, days, weeks, months?
What in terms of creating them?
Well, no. So in terms of actually showing to the customer, because
showing to the customer. Again, it depends. But if it's a one-on-one demo in a customer meeting, then probably maybe 15 minutes, okay. Maybe as long as half an hour. But it depends on what they want to see and all those kind of things. But for me, quite often less is more, because the more you do, the more you can get sucked down the rabbit hole, and the more risk as well, right? Stuff going wrong, but again, some of that is the scenarios you're showing as well. If there's or use cases or whatever you want to call them, I wouldn't want to be within a 15 or 20 minute slot. I want to be showing maybe 4 different key flows or scenarios or whatever you want to call them to the customer. So, if they only want to see something very quick and straightforward, then, maybe 5 minutes is enough. And, if it's somewhere like a trade show, then, 5 or 10 minutes, absolute tops, because people, well, again, you need to have your get out of jail free cards with that as well, where it's like, people will come and go, and you can very quickly gauge whether they're actually interested or not in those kind of things. So they tend to be a lot quicker in terms of being able to run through different things. And you don't want to keep somebody engaged at a booth for, half an hour or whatever if they're not really, really interested. And if they're really interested, you're going to be having other conversations and just, forcing them to drink from your fire hose.
I was talking to someone from a networking company here in Ottawa, and because there's only 3, I guess it's one of those 3. They said sometimes their demos take up to a week, where they bring the customers up. They take an hour of every morning to review what they did the day before.
So that's kind of interesting, because for me, that's more, I would treat that more as a kind of proof of concept project, where it's like, okay, we're going to be putting together, like, it feels more like a training course doing something for a week, right? There's just, or like I say, a proof of concept, because it's just, I know that, software can be super complicated and everything else, but if that's literally just demoing stuff, it's like, well, yeah, well, again, maybe there's a, it's the RFP, the list of requirements is so long that it's like they want to see, and again, I guess if it's networking stuff, it's like, well, and it's well, typically back in the day it would have been hardware. Again, stuff is all software orientated these days, but yeah, show me how this can be used in this context, that context. But then if that's just one, I find that really interesting, because it's like, if that's just one buying team looking at that, that's so much to absorb. Like, that feels more like a training session, I guess.
I'm gonna have to try to get them on and discuss that with them. But I understand, because I work there, I understand it, like in networking, because there's so many aspects from within a network that customers would want to see. For example, like fast reroute, which basically means if a link fails, how fast would it take to reroute, and should be less than 50 milliseconds, or like
yeah, and that's why I say, some of that stuff feels more like a somewhat training, somewhat proof of concept testing exercise, because it's, again, I guess that's the thing, is context. Is a demo more about showing feature functionality, or is it about showing in terms of just what differentiators? And I think differentiators should always be key, but if you and all your competitors can do fast reroute in so many milliseconds, and it's within it's within a very tight window, and it's then you go, well, okay, you want to see that, you want to prove that out, but is that something where I treat that as a a demo? Well, like I say, for me, that's more like, this is a proof of concept stuff. And to kind of go back and give an example, I guess. So again, early on in my career, I remember being on customer site for like a week, but again, it was more kind of a development environment in terms of putting stuff together to show. And I would have done all the discovery and everything else. I'd roll up and, maybe spend, I don't know, half a day installing this stuff. And then, the following morning be like, okay, let's run through this. And then it's like, oh no, this isn't what we wanted at all. Management have changed their mind, or, misinterpretation of some of the requirements. And, I spend the rest of the week rebuilding it to then show them exactly what they wanted on the Friday. So you could argue, well, that was more of a week-long demo, because they were always breathing down my neck and going, okay, how's it going? Show me this, show me that. But like I say, that was more of a development environment. Like I say, I can see in a networking world, yeah, you do want to see all this features and capabilities, but I don't necessarily, to me, that's more of a testing exercise, proof of concept, whatever you want to call it. And again, for me, I guess I see demo as a fairly short, brief thing, whereas, like I said, proof of concept is about, let's see how we can break this, or, test this out. So it's a slightly different, I guess it's just a terminology thing and how I think about stuff in my head. But
well, the differentiation that I make between a demo and a proof of concept is that demo is like led by the SE or whoever is doing the demo, Whereas a proof of concept, the actual customer can put their hands on the device and play around with it. That's how I differentiate it in my mind. I could be completely
Okay,
wrong.
that's interesting because I wouldn't differentiate stuff that way personally. But I mean, well, again, I've not seen it that often where.
So how would you differentiate it?
I think more about, being able to, proof of concept is either we're going to develop something new or build out something to show off specifics for a customer over a longer period of time. And, that could involve doing some integration work or, using test tools or, really poking and prodding the box to see whether it does what it says on the tin to solve the customer's problems. And yeah, like I say, proof of concept, was more likely to include integration, really getting down and dirty with stuff and doing, more proper, because for me, a demo is just like, okay, show how an integration might happen. You can show a brief thing of, well, we've got the APIs here, the various interfaces on slideware almost. But, a proof of concept is like, well, okay, show me that actual API working and how that's going to work in my world. Give me, use some dummy data, at bell.com, bell.com or whatever, use my dummy customer, make it real for me, in terms of setting this stuff up and then, being able to call APIs and look at stuff interacting with, equipment in their network, but, those kind of things. Because again, demos, a lot of the time you'll be using simulators and other kind of smoke and mirrors to show how stuff, might be happening, but it may not actually necessarily be talking to any real equipment out there. Because building a demo, again, when you're dealing with something in the network, which I have been for a long time, where it's talking to billing systems, it's talking to network elements, it's talking to provisioning, it's talking to, it's kind of sat right in the middle of the network and it's got maybe 20 or 30 touch points, and different stuff going through that. There's no way in hell that you could ever when you've got 20 or 30 touch points, there's no way in hell of being able to demo all of that with real equipment. Whereas a proof of concept, you've got much more opportunity to do that integration.
Okay, perfect. So we are getting to the 1 hour mark, and I guess it's a good time to transition to the not so fire round. If you've heard this podcast before, I have some bad news. I've changed the questions a little bit.
I think you did say that you might when we met up a few weeks ago. So
yeah. So there was one question about gadgets. I've removed that, and I've replaced it by this question. What is your favorite thing about being a sales engineer?
Favorite thing about being a sales engineer? I think this is quite easy, actually. I think it's engaging with people.
Okay. That's a very short and sweet answer. Question number 2. If there's one thing you would change about the sales engineering job, what would that be?
Get rid of RFPs.
Well, you'd have to get rid of most of the customers then.
Well, no, I think. Well, I mean, again, for me, the RFP process is kind of interesting. So, the number of RFPs I've seen where it's like, oh, they've been talking to the same consultants, or they've been, they've managed to get hold of an RFP from another, another operator elsewhere in the world, and the questions and some of the questions you're just like, oh, I've seen that before. So, I just find that the timescales and the number of questions and everything else, and again, quite often they are actually vendor influenced, although nobody likes to admit it. So,
yep.
It for me is a process. I understand why it exists, but it's very frustrating, and I'm just not convinced it entirely works.
Okay. Is there a book or resource that you would recommend for sales engineers?
That's a really interesting question as well. I guess early on there was, a lot of the blogs and things that I used to read back in the day have kind of fallen by the wayside. I think, obviously there's this great podcast. I'd always recommend that to other fellow sales engineers. I think for me, most of my learning has been done on the job. So I think just interacting with other people that have done the SE role and learn from them would be the biggest resource I've had personally in my career.
Perfect. So this is a question I'm going to ask you that's not on the fire round, but I just thought of it, so I'm going to ask you. If you were to write a book about sales engineering, what would the title be, or what would the focus be?
I would definitely do a book around demos and proof of concept activities, because there isn't a lot. There are a few resources out there on that. I've not managed to read many of them myself yet, but I would definitely make that my focus, because for me that's where I really that's the bit of the job that I enjoy most, is doing the demos and proof of concept work.
Okay. So the last question is kind of comes back to the question I asked you earlier. What advice would you have wanted to have received when you first started as a sales engineer?
Never let yourself get too far away from hands-on experience with the technology.
Perfect. Well, wise words to end on.
Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to chatting with you outside the podcast as well.
For sure. Obviously, we're both based here in Ottawa, so I'm sure we'll continue to bump into each other around town. So good to talk.
It'll be fun. All right, man. Take care.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ramsey.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you guys for listening. This brings us to the end of the show. I really enjoyed talking to Edward. I had met with him a few weeks earlier, and we discussed what we do, and we realized that even though we're both called sales engineers, what we actually do is very different, and mainly because of where his customers are, where mine are, and the types of products we sell. So I just find it interesting how two people with the same title can be so different and at the same time have the same end goal. So I just thought it was interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'd love to hear your comments. So leave a comment in the comments section below about what parts of your jobs is similar to Edward's, what is different. And if you're not an SE, just let me know which part appealed to you and which didn't. So if you enjoy travel, maybe that appealed to you, maybe it didn't. Show notes are at wetheSalesEngineers.com/show48, and that's where you can leave comments as well. Subscribe to the show if you like it on iTunes, Apple Cast, Google Play, wherever you listen to it. If it's useful, share it with your colleagues and friends. I would appreciate that. I'm sure they would as well. And I will see you all next week. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.